So moving right along to the next form of writing our equations with given information for linear equations, we've talked about writing when we have the slope and y-intercept, so given your m and your b, and then writing when you're giving your slope and a point. Now, the two things you have to remember you need to write an equation in slope-intercept form is the slope and the y-intercept, so your m and your b. The x and y's are helpful sometimes if you're missing one of those, but ultimately if that's all you have, then you can't write the equation by itself if you only have one coordinate without doing a lot of work. A lot is probably a strong word, but without having to do some calculations to find that m and b. M and b are the non-negotiables must have. So if you have 2 points, again, like we said last video, you could graph them and it might cross through a y-axis at a perfect spot as well. So using your Desmos or using a piece of graph paper could be an option, but this is the way that's going to work every single time. So we know we need our m, so we're going to solve for slope. We have 2 coordinates, and that's when you use the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or like I've talked about, the stack them and subtract them y on top. So 2, 3, 4, 11. And if you decide to use the formula, that's perfectly fine too. Just know that your answer has to be the same. So we're going to subtract. So 2 minus 4 gives me a negative 2. These are our x values. 3 minus 11 is going to give me 8. Negative 8, because the 11 is bigger than the 3 and it's a minus. So I end up with a negative 8 over negative 2, negative, and 8 divided by 2 need to be fixed, cleaned up, reduced, simplified. So negative we know gives a positive. 8 divided by 2 is going to give me a positive 4. And as far as our slope, remember that would be your rise is 4, run is 1. So we know that m equals 4. Choose a coordinate, whichever coordinate you like. If you like 11 as your favorite number, use that one. If you like 3 and 2 better because they're smaller, which is what I would do, choose that one. Because now we're going to go back and do exactly what we did in our last video. So I'm going to use 2 and 3 because they're smaller. So our m value is 4. In this case, our x value is 2. Our y value is 3. And now we're going to plug in just like we did before. So the only added step versus when you're given 1 point in slope, when you have 2 points, you have to solve for slope and then use 1 point. So then you're back to that 1 point in slope idea. So y is 3, m is 4, and then our x is 2. So we're going to solve. So 3, 4, 2. 4 times 2 is 8. So I have 3 equals 8 plus b. I need b by itself. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. And we're going to get a negative 5 for our b value. So our final equation, we're going to go back and pull our m, which is 4. Our slope was 4. And our b value is negative 5. And as I said before, that plus minus is probably not how you're going to see it written. But plus and minus is the same thing as, or plus and negative is the same thing as subtracting 5. But this is going to be the more popular notation for that equation when you find it as a multiple choice or depending on what program you're in. All right, let's do a couple more. Ready? So number 1. So we have 2, 4, 5, and negative 2. So first of all, we got to solve for slope. So I'm going to stack them. So my x's are together and my y's are together. And then I'm going to subtract them both. So 2 minus 5 is going to give me a negative 3. That minus turns that into a plus. So we're going to end up with a positive 6. Y is always on top. So it's 6 over negative 3. 6 is divisible by 3. So we're going to get a negative 2 because there's a negative on the bottom. And that whole number, remember, there's an assumed 1 on the bottom. So it's a rise of negative 2 and a run of 1. So our slope is negative 2. We're going to pick whichever coordinate you want. I'm going to use 2 and 4. So 2 is x, 4 is y. So I chose this coordinate. You can do 5 and negative 2. This is another one of those times where your work is not going to necessarily have to match mine or your neighbor's or anyone else's, but the answer has to be the same. So now that I have those things, I'm going to plug it in. Our y value is 4. Our slope is negative 2. Our x value is 2. And then we need to solve for b. So I'm going to simplify or clean up. Negative 2 times positive 2 is a negative 4 plus b. I need b by itself, so I'm going to add 4 to get that away from that b on that b side. And that's going to give me 8 equals b. So it means my y-intercept's b. My y-intercept's 8, and my slope is negative 2. So my final equation is going to be y equals negative 2 plus 8. And sometimes it's helpful if you circle these, or if you make a list out to the side, because you know you're going to need your m and you know you're going to need your b. So in this case, my m was negative 2, and my b was 8, just so you don't pull one of the wrong numbers, because there's a lot of numbers going on there. And again, you need your slope and your y-intercept to write the final equation of that linear and slope-intercept form. So this is the answer to the question. Everything else is just the work to get there. So if you're feeling froggy, pause the video, try number 2. If not, please, 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 after we do this one, pause and try number 3. Again, messing up today is not going to hurt anybody's feelings. Nobody's watching. All right, so we need slope. So I'm going to do 0, 3, 7, -4. I'm going to subtract them both. So again, I have a double subtraction there. That minus a negative makes that a positive. So that turns into a plus. So I have 0 minus 7 gives me -7. 3 plus 4 gives me 7. Y goes on top, 7 over -7. So my slope is going to be -1 for this guy. So that guy's important. We know we're going to need it. So maybe highlight it, or like I said, make a list over here. I know I need M, and I know I'm going to need B. My M is now -1. I'm going to pick a coordinate. I like zeros. Anything with a 0 in it is cool to me because it makes things go away. So numbers aren't getting bigger and things are crossing out. So I'm going to use my slope of -1, my X value of 0, and my Y value of 3. So I'm choosing to use this coordinate. So when I write that out, I have Y equals MX plus B. So -1 times 0 does give you a 0. So 3 equals 0 plus B. 0 is 0, so we're done with that. So B is 3. Now we're going to write our final equation using our slope and our y-intercept. So that one was kind of kind, thankfully, for that 0. Love a good 0. And realistically, if you remember that x is 0 at the y-intercept, you didn't have to solve for this part. All you really needed was the slope. But that's something you're going to have to train yourself to look for. So whenever x is 0, that y value is your y-intercept. So that coordinate in itself, some of you may have already realized, was the y-intercept. So you can avoid doing this set of solving. But if you didn't pick it up, no big deal. It's still a habit. And it's not that you're going to get y-intercept often in your coordinates given to you. So like I said, if you didn't try number 2, pause it now. And let's try number 3 by yourself and see where you might mess up. All right, so I'm a stacker, subtractor, y on top. So 12 minus 0 is going to give me 12. 6 minus 2 is going to give me 4. Y on top, x on bottom. 4 over 12 is reducible. And we're in high school, so we always reduce. So 4 goes into 12 3 times. So that means I have a 1/3 slope. I'm making my list over here. M is going to be 1/3. I need a B. Maybe just save myself some time. I'm going to go around and look. Oh, look, there it is. X is 0, so B is 2. But if you wanted to solve, or if you went through and solved, I'm going to use 0 too, because like I said, zeros make me happy. They make things go away. So my X value, I'm going to use 0. Y value 2. So 2 equals 1/3 times 0 plus B. These go away. So 2 equals B. And if you had used 12 and 6, so 6 is my Y, 1/3 of 12 plus B. So Y and X in the right place. So 1/3 of 12 is going to be 4. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So 2 equals B that way too. You should always get the same y-intercept no matter which coordinate you use because they're part of the same line. So our slope is 1/3 and our y-intercept is 2. And we now have written that equation in slope-intercept form using all of our parts that we had to solve for. Now, you have learned this before, but we need to drill it in our head. There's a huge section of this on your EOC, and I promise it's going to be there. I'm not sure really why we struggle with it so much. But parallel lines, they have the same slope. So that means the M value is 1/3, the M value is -1/2. I mean -1, M value is -2, like as examples above, for any line that is parallel. Because remember, parallel means they'll never touch. So parallel, never touch. Now, perpendicular. That means they bisect or intersect at 90 degrees. And that matters. Perpendicular, so we have to remember perpendicular. As soon as you see the word perpendicular, I want you to think 90 degrees first. And then I want you to think opposite reciprocal. So opposite being that if it was positive, it's now negative and vice versa. And reciprocal means we're flipping them. And we're going to get into that some more in our next video, in our next lesson. But just for now, Same means the numbers are exactly the same. Opposite reciprocal means if they were positive, they became negative, or if they were negative, they became positive. And if they were a fraction, they would flip. So if it happened to be like a negative 1/2, the perpendicular slope is going to be a positive 2/1, which we know is 2. If it happened to be 3/4 positive, then the perpendicular slope is going to be negative 4/3. So positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive, and like I said, they flip. All right, guys, thanks so much.